Okay, so let's quickly recap what we have learned. So the first thing that we have seen is it all starts with the GUI. I'm a user, I log in, I do a transaction, the communication from the client end goes to what's called as the server. So this is a server. It's not always a standalone GUI. For example, this over here, right? This is called the standalone GUI. It's a dedicated program working only to interact with the SAP GUI. But there is another version of the GUI called the web GUI. So you can use your Firefox or any Internet Explorer or any kind of supported browser, and you can use that to interact with your server. It's going to be mostly similar. The screens are going to be very similar. And on the server end, so this is called a gateway. So a gateway takes the request and looks for what's called as a dispatcher. And a dispatcher knows which work process to connect to and get that work process to look at this request and process the corresponding request. So when I mean a request, it could be a login request, it could be a sales order creation request, it could be a purchase order creation, it could be a customer master creation, any of those. And the server also has what is called as a database. This is behind that. This entire thing, the blue box here, is called the application layer. And this is the database layer. And the application server interacts with the database, and the database stores and retrieves data for the application server. And we have seen an example of where SAP can scale. So the same application scale depending on the number of users. So if the number of users is more, you can architect your landscape in such a way that the system scales with the number of users. So the same server can be replicated into more than one. This is one server, this is another server, this is another server, and here is the user trying to log in or do some transaction using the GUI, and there you go. It can log into any of these boxes, and all the communication will be taken care of by what's called as a message server. And these are all app servers. It's called application servers. There is only one message server and more than one application servers. And the app server interacts with another layer called the database layer. So this is how things scale. So we're not talking about scaling on the database level. That's taken care of by the underlying database. So we're not going to talk about that. But this is the scaling that's happening on the SAP app server.